What is up everyone, Nick here, and in today's video we're going to be making the world's most immersive Helldivers 2 experience by building our very own functional props, like the Stim Injector and the Stratagem Pad, and then we'll be putting our gear to the test. Now if you don't know what Helldivers 2 is, you're genuinely though, Helldivers 2 is a super fun PvE shooter, and it has a bunch of really fun game mechanics, like friendly fire. My friends and I have a rule. Friendly fire is okay, as long as it's funny. So if you haven't tried Helldivers 2 yet, I highly recommend you go check it out. After this video. Not before. After. So for a little bit of context, in this video game you have what are called stratagems. Now stratagems are either ordnance or equipment that you can call in from your super destroyer. And to call them in, you need to manually input codes onto a stratagem pad that your Helldiver has attached to their arm. So to make this game more interactive, I went ahead and built my very own stratagem pad using a touchscreen that communicates wirelessly with my PC. And to add on top of that immersion, I also built my very own Stim Injector. In this video game, you don't heal automatically. You need to manually jab yourself with a stim to heal. And as you can see, I also went ahead and built my very own BO1 tactical helmet, which I'll be wearing while I play this game. So not only is this equipment going to be adding to my immersion while playing, but it's also gonna make it way more difficult. Like, I'm not convinced I can super helldive with all of this, but we're gonna try. Now before we actually start playing the game, let me give you guys a quick breakdown of how I built everything. Starting with the most straightforward piece of equipment, the BO1 tactical helmet. So this started off its life as a raw 3D printed part, which I 3D printed in ABS on the RatRig VCore 3.1, which allowed me to 3D print this whole helmet in one single piece. Solid. And since it was 3D printed in ABS, it was super easy to sand everything down. But that's just the main part of the helmet. The rest of it, like the visor and the silver accents, were actually 3D printed out of resin on the Elegoo Saturn IV Ultra. This machine comes jam-packed with a whole bunch of features, like its tilt release. This feature tilts the resin tank during printing, allowing for faster peeling of models from the release film. The result? Printing speeds of up to 150 millimeters per hour without compromising detail. And speaking of details, the Elegoo Saturn IV Ultra features a 10-inch 12K mono LCD screen with an incredible resolution of 11,520 by 5,120 pixels and an XY resolution of 11 by 24 microns. This means your prints will come out super sharp and with an amazing clarity. And on top of its resolution, the Saturn IV Ultra comes equipped with a build volume of 218 by 112 by 220 millimeters cubed, making it suitable for small to large scale projects. With features like these, the Elegoo Saturn IV Ultra is easily my favorite resin 3D printer that I've had the chance to work with to date, and I can easily see it becoming a staple in my shop and in future projects. So a huge thank you again to Elegoo for sponsoring this video and providing the 3D printer for this project, and if you have any questions about the Elegoo Saturn IV Ultra, please leave them in the comments down below. Now when it comes to 3D printing clear resin for the visor of this helmet, there's quite a bit more work involved than your typical 3D print. So once I went through the process of washing and then UV curing the visor, I started by wet sanding this visor down with 220 grit sandpaper. I probably spent most of my time sanding this visor with 220 grit, that way I would remove all of the imperfections, all of the layer lines before moving on with the other steps. So once it was to my liking, I sanded this down with 400 grit, 800 grit, and then 2000 grit sandpaper. Now even though it was super smooth, it still wasn't see-through. So I took a Dremel with a buffing wheel attachment and a little bit of buffing compound to polish the surface of this 3D print. And once I polished both sides of the 3D print, it practically became see-through immediately. And once the clarity was to my liking, I applied a coat of black VHT Carlite tinting spray, which gave the visor this black appearance while still being see-through from the inside. And for the helmet itself, I sanded it with an electric sander using 120 grit sandpaper, and then I sanded all the nooks and crannies I couldn't reach with the electric sandpaper with just regular 120 grit sandpaper. And once I did the entire surface of the helmet, I then covered it in a very thick coat of filler primer. And once that was nice and dry, I also applied a little bit of spot putty to some of the layer lines I missed and to some of the imperfections that were still left behind on the helmet. And once that had also cured, I sanded the entire helmet down with 220 grit sandpaper, rinse and repeat the process of sanding down with 220 grit and the filler primer until everything was perfectly smooth, at which point I wet sanded the helmet with 400 grit sandpaper before moving on to paint. And speaking of paint, for the gunmetal on the helmet, I ended up going with a duplicolor perfect match. So the one I ended up using is a Mazda graphite mica, and it gave this super nice gunmetal finish on the helmet, and it dries super quickly, which is super handy. And for the clear coat, I went ahead and used some more duplicolor. This is their 1K matte clear coat, which works super well. So once I applied the graphite mica on the helmet, I ended up masking it off to do all the yellow striping. Now in my case, I used just some random Rust-Oleum yellow I had lying around. If you're going to be using this specific duplicolor perfect match, I highly recommend you also find some yellow in the same brand, because I had some weird reactions when using the Rust-Oleum with this, but honestly it's not that big of a deal because I ended up black washing it anyways, so it kind of hides the imperfections. And once I finished up the paint on the helmet, I also installed some vinyl decals of the skulls using a vinyl cutter. And once those were applied, I also went ahead and glued on these silver detail bits that we 3D printed on the Elegoo Saturn IV Ultra. And with that done, all I had to do was seal the paint with the 1K clear coat. And once the clear coat was also dry, I went ahead and applied a black wash to the entire helmet to really give it a grimy feel. I'm so glad I ended up doing this black wash because it just looks so much more realistic than if I gave it a super nice and clean finish. And for this black wash, I used some black oil paint mixed up with mineral spirits and then applied it all over the helmet. And then I just glued in the visor and some foam padding on the inside, and I am ready to spread managed democracy. But first I have to talk to you guys about the other props. So let's talk about the stratagem pad. Now for the 3D model, I used the stratagem pad that was already available in the BO1 tactical armor file set by Galactic Armory, but I heavily modified it to fit all the electronics needed for this project. Now I know there are way better stratagem pads than this one out there, but they're not publicly available yet. So maybe if I end up improving the code and designing my own 3D files, I might end up releasing this, but we'll see. So let me know in the comments down below if that's something you'd want me to do. When we turn it on, the screen flashes and we have 4 arrows and a skull in the corner. The touchscreen connects to my computer via Bluetooth, and the skull acts as the control key, while the arrows are the arrow keys on my computer. So whenever I press these, it will send the command to my computer via Bluetooth. So for all intents and purposes, this is basically a wireless keyboard. So after undoing these screws, we can see inside that we have the kill switch and the USB-C port here connected to the LiPo battery and the Adafruit LiPo battery charger. And this setup is what powers the Crow Panel 3.5-inch HMI ESP32 display. And that's basically it. The only issue is I can only connect one Bluetooth device at a time as a wireless keyboard on my computer. So the Stim Injector actually communicates wirelessly to the stratagem pad via its MAC address, which allows me to transmit the input from the Stim Injector to the stratagem pad to my computer. And speaking of which, let's talk about the Stim Injector. So I originally got the files for the Stim Injector from Big Fred Customs, and I somehow managed to modify the absolute crapola out of these files to fit all the electronics. Honestly, it's kind of insane that I managed to pull this off because there is a lot going on in here for such a small space. Number one, about half of the Stim Injector is purely for the battery itself. And I had to do some weird stuff to this 3D model to get everything to work. Like for example, this half of the Stim Injector I had to extend just so that the battery could actually fit. And then I went ahead and added mounts for the USB port, the LiPo battery charger, the ESP32S3, and of course the button. So inside the front of the Stim, we have a fake needle which is spring loaded, and when this needle is pressed down, it pushes the button. And when the button is triggered, the ESP32S3 sends the data to my stratagem pad, which activates the input on my computer, allowing me to stim in game. Now originally I 3D printed the needle on some of my FDM 3D printers. The only issue is this thing is so thin that it breaks super easily. So instead I had this SLS printed out of titanium by this channel sponsor, PCBWAY. Now PCBWAY, if you don't know it already, is the industry leader when it comes to PCB manufacturing and 3D printing solutions. From custom circuit boards to innovative 3D printed prototypes, PCBWAY offers unparalleled quality, fast turnaround times, and competitive pricing. But with all that said, all our equipment is now done, and I think we should finally put our gear to the test. So let's boot up Helldivers 2 and just see how this goes. Okay, the helmet's going on. The helmet stays on. I literally have to put my head against the screen to see what mission type I'm selecting. This is not good. This is already very bad. Let's get started with a blitz.
Nick, you literally need to equip the default armor right now. You realize that, right? Or at least the helmet.
No, I don't.
You need the helmet. You gotta match the helmet.
I can't even select my loadout with this helmet on. Hold on.
Your loadout is so terrible.
Okay, there we go. It's selected. Okay, so you want me to use the default armor? Why?
Default
I like
helmet.
having my grenades.
The default
Why?
Because it'll match the helmet you're wearing, isn't it?
Oh, fair enough. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, jackass, come on.
I say it. Okay, I got it set up. Okay, helmet back on. Helmet back on. Oh, I can't see anything.
Just go toward the light.
Okay, I called in a turret.
Good job.
I called in my minigun. I did it.
Oh god, Nick, look out. There's robots. They're shooting lasers at you. You just can't see them because you have...
Okay, helmet. The helmet is not staying on. I cannot see shit. I'm about to do something real funny.
What's that?
Whoa!
Exactly what you were
Did the Illuminate shoot that hell bomb? What happened? There we go. Oh, would you look at that? I have a sliver of health missing. It's not, there we go. Maybe loading a Sief artillery doesn't make for the best content. Also, I just realized I forgot to change my loadout for my grenades.
Yeah, I forgot. I typically bring the grenade pistol.
There we go, 500 kilo time.
that's gonna
What
blow
the? Ooh, PP rock.
Shield is going down. Talon, help me shoot this thing.
Okay, I'm gonna book it to the extraction. Yeah! There we go. Okay, calling in a turret.
Thank you for calling that out.
Dude, listen, it's less for you, more for the audience, okay? Resupply, yeah! See, the stratagem pad ain't so bad. What else can I call right now? A heavy machine gun, thank you. What else? We got a backpack ready to go. Maybe I shouldn't... There we go. Okay, extraction's ready to go. Oh, we got dudes here. Finally, a good fight.
Oh my god, literally Talon and I have been fighting for our lives for the last several minutes. Oh my god. Talon, run! Oh dude, Talon, you gotta do a safe footage.
Sorry.
Take a foot of this footage, please. Oh god.
Okay, that's not what it... Oh gosh, dang it!
Just run.
I do not have any ammo.
That's okay, Talon.
Oh, we're out of time. We have to go.
We gotta go.
Danny is still in the city. And we have friends now that we need to take care of.
Hello, boys.
Where's the resupply?
Oh, we got two harvesters.
Holy
Got him. Oh, I'm getting shot. Oh.
Extraction complete. Pelican 1 beginning ascent. First try.
That was a lot harder than I expected, but it was also a lot easier in some regards. It's definitely not the most optimized way to play the game, but it was a lot of fun. But before we wrap up this video, I just want to thank each and every one of you for supporting this channel and helping it get to 100,000 subscribers. I'm gonna be honest, kind of snuck up on me. It's a huge milestone and I'm just really grateful to be here. When I first started posting online sharing the progress of my Mark 20 suit on Instagram, I didn't really expect I would get here someday. This journey has been amazing for me. I've been given the chance to share the things that I love, to be creative, and it's even given me the opportunity to travel the world and meet some incredible people that would become my best friends. And these are people who just inspire me and support me in every step of the way. And all of that would not have happened without the doors that social media opened for me. And none of this would have been possible either without your support. I pour my heart into the things I build and into the videos I make. And it just truly means the world to me that you've been a part of it. You have built this community, and I feel super lucky to be here sharing this with you guys. So here's to continuing this journey together, dreaming bigger, creating even more, and having a little bit of fun along the way. So thank you for being here, and as always, I will see you all in the next one.